Wasn't it interesting this last week? The power went out on the north side of town for, I think, over an hour. And it was a bird that grabbed hold of a snake, a 3-foot gardener snake, and dropped it on the substation, and the power went out. Isn't that interesting? I just thought that was really, and a snake taking out the power and the lights. You know, we're living in a season right now where there's so much deception. When we did our 21-day fast at the beginning of this year, all of a sudden I began to get these dreams, and these dreams were filled with snakes. It was the strangest thing, and I saw these snakes coming up to people in the church and bringing deception to them, and them falling for deception. Lest we know the truth, you and I fall to deception. And truth is not how I feel or even what I think. Truth can only be based upon something that is eternal and will never change. The absolute inspired Word of God. And if I don't have an appetite for the Word of God, now is a good time to be asking God to give me an appetite for His Word. And the only way I can get an appetite for His Word is not just through praying, but also positioning myself in the Word of God. And so, how many of you went to college? Raise your hand real quick. Or in college right now, many of you. I went to University of Minnesota Moorhead. Back then it was just called Moorhead State. And you have to understand, yes, I gave my heart to Jesus when I was 10, but I wasn't a person of the Word. I went to Sunday school, I went and heard the Word of God preached, but most of the time I would check out while the preacher was preaching or the person was teaching. Does anybody can relate to that? You can just check out, your mind is somewhere else. Maybe your mind is somewhere else right now. I ask you to engage right now with me, okay? But for me, my mind would check out, and I wasn't a person of the Word. So when I got to the University, Minnesota Moorhead, they were teaching things, and I was starting to kind of be interested in some of the doctrines of demons that they were teaching. Because my heart and mind wasn't sold out on Jesus Christ, and I wasn't a person of the Word. The Word of God had not been saturated into my spirit. Yes, I heard the preaching, but it was like this. And so these doctrines of demons began to infiltrate my mind, and I began to question whether or not they were true or whether or not they were false. And I started to believe lies until I came back to Christ in 1988 in my dorm room, and I said, "It's all you, Jesus. It's all." And so what happened was I not only became born again, but I began to crave the Word of God. And when I began to crave the Word of God, I began to realize what I had started believing was all false and was a lie, and were doctrines of demons and these snakes, this deception, trying to pull me in to this greater deception and turn the lights off in my life.